Welcome to our podcast celebrating Scottish culture and entertainment, which is here to sing the praises of books, films, comedy, music, theatre, exhibitions, telly, poetry and all that jazz. I'm Nicola Meehan. I'm an arts writer and broadcaster, and I'll give you the lowdown on what's coming up, what's happening now, what came before and what we love, which is to say that every week I'm here to give you a kick up the arts. I'm joined every Thursday by brilliant guests in art spaces around the country, and this week I'm thrilled to be chatting with two of our most excellent voices on stage, on screen and on record. The mighty horse McDonald has been raising the roof and breaking our hearts since the release of 1990's debut album The Same Sky, and timeless songs like Careful and The Speed of the Beat of My Heart. And she is more fired up than ever on her superb new album The Road Less Travelled. Horse is on tour right now and you should totally go and see her. We all should. Let's go together. She is brilliant. But that's not all. We're also joined by the awesome actor and musician Hannah Jarrett-Scott, who you might well have seen on telly in Float and Two Doors Down, or on stage in Pride and Prejudice, sort of, and Medea on the mic at a play, A Pie and a Pint. And she's in panto with Elaine C. Smith at the King's Theatre in Glasgow this Christmas. Her band, Colour Theory, is sublime, and they have just released a new EP. We recorded this chat at the National Galleries of Scotland's Women in Revolt exhibition at Modern 2 in Edinburgh, which is a righteous call to arms, a constant eye-opener, and an absolute joy. We variously touched upon Linder's meat dress decades before Lady Gaga, of course, and 3-minute screams via the raincoats, and leotards via throbbing gristle, not to mention Horse's newfound life manifestos, and whether Hannah's going to rock a moustache when she plays Captain Hook in the panto this Christmas. But seeing as the last time I saw Horse, I was doing a couple of Q&As with her at Glasgow's CCA when she released The Road Less Travelled, I started with that. Horse McDonald, how the devil are you?
Nicola Meehan, how the devil are you? I'm very good, very busy, but very good.
I haven't seen you since the CCA when...
Which was May.
I was going to say when we launched the album. Get me having a bit of ownership.
We did launch the album. Couldn't have done it without you, really. Major part of the whole thing.
It was so lovely to be there playing, hearing you playing The Road Less Travelled in full twice. We had a good blather about it.
It's
magic.
magic.
And I remember that day I'd put lots of pictures up online, and the lovely Hannah Jarrett-Scott here tweeted back and went, "I'm gutted I can't be there. I love Horse." And here you are. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm very, very happy to be here and to meet you finally.
Yourself too.
I can't believe you haven't met before.
Well, we have been in the same room before.
Oh, right.
Because...
wasn't facilities, was it?
my dad filmed one of your gigs or music videos at some point when I was quite young, and I must have been mid-90s. And he had a wee crew through QMU, through the university. It was through Karen Bryce, I think.
Oh, I know Karen Bryce very well.
Yeah, it was through
Karen does my live thing.
He's got in touch with Karen, and Karen was mates with my dad.
Wow.
And so he, for whatever reason, childcare issues on the day, I was there.
You were there too?
And I was tiny, and that was one of the first gigs I think I ever saw.
Oh my.
Was one of your gigs.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so I
and here
remember
you are
it
now.
very vividly.
Yeah, here you are now, which is over 3 years ago.
A few years ago. Speaking of years, we're at the Modern 2 National Galleries of Scotland, been wandering around an absolutely brilliant exhibition, Women in Revolt, Art and Activism in the UK, 1970 to 1990. We'll chat a little bit about it through this conversation, if I remember, to talk about everything. But first of all, one of the things I really love is that it's that specific period in time, 1970 to 1990, which in one way seems like a lifetime ago, and in another seems very recent. And it's lovely timing because we get to 1990 and then what happens? Horse, debut album, perfect timing.
No, but that period of time that a lot of this is based around, the 70s, it was, I look back and I see it as revolutionary.
Yeah.
At the time, it was, you were in my household, both my mum and dad were very male orientated. The male was the boss, and I was the middle child. Two boys, younger and older. Yeah, and I think you're generally thought about as being the peacekeeper, but I could barely hold my tongue because my dad was he really ruled the roost. And what is really strange with years later, you see a different person. You realise that you're embedded and you're immersed in your own things. They're immersed in their things. Yeah. And when you get a little bit older, you look back and you think a lot of people are an element of their own upbringing. My dad was the Borough Surveyor of Lanark, and he was the last Borough Surveyor of Lanark that ever existed. just that very kind of traditional. He was the breadwinner. My mum wasn't allowed to go out and work, even though she was a nanny when she first met him. And eventually, probably in the late 70s, she was allowed to go and work again. And it was frowned upon before that, absolutely. Yeah. Who's going to look after the children? And, you know.
Well, within that exhibition, there's these incredible outlays of a woman's working day compared to a man's working day. And it's just even things like making the packed lunches and getting the kids up and all of that. The onus is on
It's
the
not
women.
considered work.
Yeah.
That's the issue, I think. It's not considered like actually doing work or something that should be paid, and the women would work all the way through to the end of the night, probably. You know.
Yeah, exactly. And we had a little bit of a wander around the music and punk room, which is just utterly wonderful, isn't it? Even the costumery, Cosy Fanny Tootie's leotard. Have you ever worn a leotard on stage?
I haven't, but I think that's going to be my next.
I think it looks cool.
It looks pretty cool and nice and airy as well. You know.
Well, that's true. Very practical.
You can get very hot on stage sometimes. So.
But there's the argument that for these women, for a lot of them, they had to kind of create their own platforms and find their own voices because the institutions weren't really supporting them, and that aspect of it, I think, is fascinating.
But even as I'm looking at this now, looking back at this, and I remembered the fuss about the meat.
Yeah.
On that, was it Linda?
Yeah, Linda.
The meat and that performance, and I remember it causing such a stooshy. And now when I look at it, you need that friction, you need that kind of thing to make change.
Yeah.
I remember people really casting aspersions about the Greenham women as well. And I discovered that KB, my friend Karen you're just speaking about, was arrested at Greenham. She was one of the protesters. And was in prison in Tottenham Court Road. Myra Hindley in the library with her.
God, bizarre.
Shocking.
But yeah, everyone, and all of that is celebrated within this period in time, so 1970 to 1990. Must be interesting for you, though, Hannah, coming in from a more younger perspective, because it's history, right? For us, it's living memory. That's the difference.
Well, that's what I was thinking there. I was thinking that all came before me. I mean, I was born in 1991.
Perfect timing as well. You see what's happening.
Yes,
this is the start of the revolution. Yeah.
And I was thinking on the way over, like who were my female influences in music when I was growing up, and they were people like yourself, Horace, and people like the Spice Girls. It's so true. Like they were proper like out there gals, and just I just thought they were amazing. I remember I was thinking about my 10th disco. And I was thinking, I texted my brother and my sister the other day, and I was like, do you remember my 10th disco? And do you remember what music was playing? And yeah, I was in a boob tube, crop top and joggers, singing my heart out to the Spice Girls, feeling brilliant.
But that's it. And the thing is, that idea of girl power,
massively
huge.
Literally grew up during that era of girl power. So I wonder how much that has influenced me. I don't know. I think it probably has massively.
Yeah. And that girl power, that idea that music can be massively powerful. Well, we've got Superpower, of course, on the new album, Horace, right? The Road Less Travelled. I've got it on beautiful red vinyl, incidentally.
Yes.
We'll speak about the tour dates, but that particular song I just utterly, utterly love because, and I think, again, this is at the essence of so much of what you do as well, Hannah, which we'll talk about. You can make a real difference, and joy can be a radical act, and singing can be a radical act, and loving can be a radical act. And this particular album, Horse, and that particular song just seems to absolutely sing out with that.
I think the song was, I'm not a cerebral writer. I don't think ahead. It's how it feels and sounds that go together. And I wrote that with Mary Erskine, and it's part of a project called Right Way, a Fifer, James Yorkston's project, and I wrote with Finn Anderson and the amazing Andrew Vasilic as well. And the Mary Erskine song, the song I wrote with her, she had a clear idea straight away. Like, I want it to be about female empowerment, and I was like, all right. Cynical horse. Yeah, right. Yeah, okay. I don't like the thought. I don't like to think. And so we started to play and work together, and it just fell into place very, very easily. And just that act of at the very end of the album, I asked everyone connected, the musicians, their children, to ask the children what's their superpower. And that was just lovely to hear somebody as young as 4 years old going, my superpower is, and I want to see through walls.
I know.
And then the last one was Jamie, the guy I worked with most of the album, his daughter Molly was a lovely surprise. She goes, my superpower is being a girl.
Perfect.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you're like, that was so meant to be. Just very natural.
Yeah. And my superpower when I was young was football, actually, which is quite, and I was the only girl playing football in my team, and it was all boys. So that felt like my superpower, because I felt like because I was the only girl doing it, I felt like that was a special thing.
Yeah.
And my dad really, really encouraged me with that.
It enabled you to fly.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
a bit of freedom, I suppose.
Absolutely, yeah.
But see, you're saying you're the only girl. Rose Riley from years and years ago,
of course. But I didn't know who that. I know,
No, of course,
obviously, I
but
know
I'm
who
saying
she is now. But at that time, I wish I'd known who she
But
was.
this is still happening.
Yeah.
You keep hearing this generation. I hear about Musically as well. About being gay, being out. I hear that all the time. Oh, there was nobody else around. I went to see Kim Carney's launch of Out and Proud, the Loudon. Anyway, it's an amazing documentary because she sings for Man Ran. She also is an amazing performer as well and writer. But I went to see it, and in the conversation she went, no, and she lived in an island, and she was like, oh, there wasn't anybody else like me. And I thought, but Kim, I was around. She must have seen me. But no. So in every generation, and I used to think there was nobody like me either. You know?
Yeah.
And it was funny, I met Katie Lang at one point, and people go, oh, you did like Katie Lang, but I was never in to come out. And she came, and I'm with Regular as well. I said, oh, I'd like to go and meet her. Was that okay? Yeah. So I went into the room, and there was Katie Lang, looked a bit, I think they were both wearing blue suits. And I walked in and I went, hi. I had a wee chat, and I thought, she must know me.
Oh, that's
wonderful. She's like, no. And she was like, next. I was like, oh.
Oblivious, how could that be?
But it just shows you that we all have our influencers, as they would say, and we all have people around about us that we see. And the more visible people you see, the better. I was aware going through the exhibition, I looked at Spare Rib, and I remember thinking Spare Rib was so contentious. But there was this kind of frisson of, we're not really lesbians.
Okay.
Some of us are, but we're not. And then I think some people weren't, but they went with being contentious.
Yeah.
And there was this vision or perception rather, that Spare Rib was it was for those people.
Interesting. So even the perception of the media and the grassroots media, even then you have these differing ideas of what that is and who it's for.
You're on the edge of society. You're going up against the grain. And there was more of it in those years that the exhibition covers.
Yeah.
Music. The reason why I started writing music was to try and make sense of, my sexuality and I was writing about love, basically. So I was, so that's interesting in what you're saying, because I was looking up to powerful women, female vocals like Gwen Stefani as well, and stuff like that. But why I was writing music was to make sense of how I was feeling. So it's interesting looking back to see who my influences were and why. And
that idea of representation, or being seen, or feeling seen, or finding people who are like you or that you can relate to, it strikes me that for a lot of people, Float has done that. This BBC microdrama, this utterly, utterly powerful, incredible writing, and it's so efficient because it's 10-minute episodes.
I know. Yeah, I mean, it's quite remarkable, really. It's overwhelming for me as a gay actor who, when I was young and watching the telly, wanting to be an actor, I didn't feel like there was anything really that was... If there was something, it was quite glorified, or it was sort of a very negative lens. And actually, my experience of being gay at that young age was actually quite good. That's obviously just my experience, but there was a lot of love and care. And so when I got my hands on Float as a series and read it, and it just was so beautiful. I was like, this is amazing getting to do this as an actor, because it is got love at the absolute core of it and connection at the absolute core of it. You know,
that's so true.
There's some heavy themes in it, but ultimately it's about two young women working out and falling in love. So to be able to play that, you know, for young queer people now is an absolute honour. It really is. It's just a bit mad because I'm 33. I was 15 when I first sort of came out and stuff. So it's like I never thought that I would be the actor that would get to do that thing. Yeah. Because we've had very limited representation that's gay female led. We've had lip service. We've had
Heather Pease is a good friend of mine. Yes, but even Heather would be like,
that was 2010.
Wow,
when
was
that
it
came
that long
out.
ago?
And Float came out in Float came out 4 years ago now. So that's what 2020. So that's 10 years. That's a 10-year gap of like very limited stuff that's come through BBC or whatever, you know, for Scotland. Yeah. So I felt a lot of responsibility, but I just had fun and I just really enjoyed it. And
but I think
Steph
that's
was great.
really key for it as well. Yeah, what Steph Smith has done with the writing of it. There's such a warmth and such humour in it as well, Horse. You can have all those things, right?
Oh yeah, totally. But I think there are more stories within stories coming out. Like I think Channel 4 is very good at that, and 5 are very good at that, of having like a sort of main series, and within that there are characters who come out or they just live their lives. And I think the more of this is normal, this is life, this is what it's really like out there is important. What's really wonderful for me is just literally thinking about just the first few shows I've done. I look out into that audience and it's such a mixture of people who accept me for who I am. And it's taken me years to realise that sometimes some of your anger and upset isn't coming from people who are in front of you. It's from within you.
Yeah, totally. I remember when the second series of Float came out, we had a sort of screening, and this guy who's a film guy, he was like, I just want you to know, I'm a straight guy, but that scene with your mum when you were, you know, so upset and you fell into your mum, he was like, I feel like I've been there. And it was just this connection between a daughter and an adult parent. And so, you never know what's going to affect, you know, when you're doing it. And I think normalising, it is that thing of representation, of course, but just normalising.
It's just a story, and that's the thing with Float. It's a story that happens to be about two girls in love, as well as many other things that that we touch on.
But when we signed our deal and we started to go out, I was the first woman signed to a record label as a lesbian that the record company knew that I was, but they hadn't a clue what to do with it. But all the way through it, it was just a very, very bumpy ride, and not having any other pathway to. But all I wanted was for people to like the music. And you don't know what effect or influence you have until you actually speak to people and say that seeing you, which is what's happened for you, people seeing you up there, what, there's someone like me. That explains it. I don't feel so alone. I don't feel like I'm the only one. And the more we see situations that are universal, then the better. And I've always thought, I like to think of myself as an ambassador, because my audience are mainly straight, as far as I can see, but they adore the music. And what I write about, same as you, what I write about is life. Whether it's love, well, there's a lot of angry songs in that album, but that's, as a creative person, you can actually exercise a whole load of stuff. And it's good for you, and it's definitely good for the audience.
Totally, because we've all got that. We can all identify with it. And again, Hannah, what you were saying about why you even started making music and writing it was to try and express or articulate or even understand what's going on.
Totally,
You know, it's like that's all you need to do. I love the fact that you see it firsthand now in your audiences. You've just played 2 gigs. You're on tour right through the autumn. Loads of Scottish dates and loads of UK dates. You were at Fret's in Straven on
that was
Friday
amazing.
night. What a gig that is. Have you been to the Straven Hotel, Hannah?
I've never, no.
I tell you what, you love it.
Oh, absolutely. And honestly, it was one of those really sweaty gigs.
Yeah.
And I'm actually going out really suited and booted. I'm still keeping the tux. I've got the tux. I've got my dad's bow tie on, which must be at least 60 years old.
It's a good look.
It's a very good look.
Yeah, and it was so sweaty. And people came up to meet me afterwards and they looked melted. They really did. And they came up to me, "You're still wearing your suit?" And I went, "Yes."
Yes,
It's
I
like
like a
for
uniform.
every gig you always wear a suit.
Yeah, well, for this particular, but I always
Yeah,
have anyway.
yeah.
It's what I've always done. It's like my uniform. That's I'm ready to go to
I love
work.
that though. It's smart.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, the thing is, again, go back slightly to where we were earlier on in the conversation. For the first time, I mean, I've been doing this, God, can't even tell you, at least 50 years. Wow.
Yeah.
At least 50 years. This is the first time the lineup is all women.
Yeah.
And it's not because I've gone, right, I have to have all women. It's just how it's worked out.
And they're all
They're
superb.
They're fantastic, you know. So I've got a new female guitarist, keyboard player, drummer, bass player, and then the string girls.
Yeah.
So, and it's like, I was on that stage and we got to Superpower and I said to the audience, I went, "I don't know if you've noticed anything."
Yeah.
But, and it just felt amazing because there was all the, and it's men in particular that you have to not convince, but just sort of say, "Look, we are very good." And a lot of
Totally.
guys went, "Oh my God, the band were amazing. Tell the band they were amazing." I was like, "Yeah, I will do."
But this comes back to exactly the same thing. You know, what is Float? Float is this incredible microdrama. How it happens in 10-minute episodes, I don't know. That's a magic trick, which you guys and Steph Smith have pulled off. But also, it's about love. It's not... doesn't need to be branded as an LGBTQ plus story. And likewise, you don't need to shout about the fact that you have got this absolutely awesome all-women band. By virtue of being there, that's all we need.
Yeah. But I think that's the point I was kind of going to make. Like, you want to be recognised. When we first signed our deal, the label, I don't know whether it was them that put the information out. It was a horse. What is it, a man or a woman?
Yeah, is this a true story? Because I'd heard about this and really sincerely hoped it was
true.
apocryphal.
A flyer. No, it was a flyer. And there was that stuff. And then the press, it's always like horse, cult, lesbian singer. And it wasn't like...
Could we just have singer?
songwriter. But you didn't say that about George Michael. We didn't say that about Elton John or anyone else.
You get it with sport as well, eh? Like
Yes.
women's football.
So why can't we
player
just say that person's really good?
Yeah.
It took me a long time to get rid of that tag, cult lesbian singer-songwriter. And the word lesbian, to say that word was... like we were talking about spare rib, it was quite a contentious thing. And so it was like, that was my brand. But really, my brand wasn't that. My brand was our music and my voice. And I think men have had the whole thing, the whole gamut, and haven't allowed the space, you know, and thinking that women are perhaps lesser beings. There's this idea that men travel up and down the country touring and stuff, but it's not the case. And if you look at the exhibition, there's so many women were working away at it, you know. But they were looked upon as indie. Yeah. And they were looked upon as not part of the whole big music industry thing. Yeah. And we're still struggling for that now.
Completely true. There's an accompanying lovely vinyl compilation which I have in my hand. Women in Revolt, Underground Rebellion in British Music, 77 to 85. The beginning, it says in the back, of the end of the patriarchy. Well, we're still here, aren't we? But it's got Strawberry Switchblade on it, the Raincoats, Marine Girls, Raincoats, of course, Gina Birch, and the 3-minute scream up the stairs was quite something. We had a wander in there, didn't we?
I know, I'll have to come back, I think, 'cause it's overwhelming.
But then it has its effect, doesn't it? Yeah. There is this scream, it's the 3-minute scream it's called, isn't it? And it's, I went into the room and I thought, I can't bear this, I need to get out. But that's the whole point, isn't it?
Right, exactly that. Yeah. And the juxtaposition of that and the knitted family in front of it, you know, that room's so striking. But there's a gentleness in some aspects, not of the scream, but of some of the fabrics and colours that are involved. And I do love the fact that, and I think this resonates throughout both of your music, Horse and yours, Hannah, with colour theory, is the idea that you can be really powerful, but you can be gentle as well, right? Definitely. So you don't need to shout to make an impact.
Absolutely
and your music's particularly sort of striking because of that.
I think because Colour Theory, my band, that came about during the pandemic, we felt at a loss of how to sort of express ourselves because, all my theatre work was cancelled and my co-writer Jill Higgins, she was a surgeon at the time and was just working mad hours in the ICU and stuff like that, and so volunteering. And we just felt, when is live stuff going to be back? When is theatres going to be normal again?
Yeah,
Theatres, her theatres, and then my theatre as well.
Oh, quite.
And we'd made music before, so we thought, well, why don't we do something? So it started off as voice notes back and forward via WhatsApp, and then we, downloaded GarageBand or whatever, and then started doing, a cappella stuff, and then over time we got the proper gear and built up some songs, and it got to like 2 or 3 songs, and then eventually we were like, we've got 9 songs, so we thought, well, let's release an album. But we did it together, just 2 voices. So then when it came to actually when live theatres were open again, we were like, how are we going to, because some of the songs have got like 7, 8 harmonies on the go at the one time. So then that's when we brought in other people, and we're now a sort of collective. Yeah. Because, going back to what you were saying, Nicola, it started at this time where we felt very vulnerable, we didn't know what the future was and what was going to happen. So it is quite raw, and it's all harmony based, it's all lyrics and vocal melody led with very basic instrumentation of harmonium and stuff like that. So it comes from a sort of cautious place, but in gigs it does feel very powerful to sing.
I think that's absolutely the case. You don't need to shout to make
get
an
a point
impact.
across. Yeah, totally.
It's instilled, all of the stuff you've felt. I think music is often an osmosis, and a lot of my emotions and anger and hurt and sadness and happiness and everything comes out when I sing. But so it's kind of like a way of exercising ghosts, and that album is very like that.
Hungry Ghosts.
Hungry Ghosts. Oh God, that's I'm really going for that one live. but even just so, I'm doing the full band and strings, but I'm also doing acoustic-y, so it's just piano, bass, and 3 voices. And I was a wee bit anxious because you heard how big the album is in places. Yeah. And I wondered, how are the songs going to stand up? Because a song is a melody and a lyric.
Yeah.
It comes right down to that.
Exactly.
So when we played for the first time at Frets, I thought, it's going to be all right. And people loved it. And I think I said to you, I talked so much about the songs and what they meant to me that we were supposed to be doing the album, followed on by a best of the rest. And we got one best of the rest.
It was meant to be like
and I was
6.
on for 2 hours. So, but that's the thing. The audience. I think what's happening in a lot of music is people like genuine. They like natural. And if you talk to people, they people like that.
But the idea of the communication, of the expression within your music or your storytelling horse as well, I would say, is utterly vital. And Hannah, you bring that to life in all sorts of ways. I particularly love Communication of Love from the album. Really, really gorgeous song. And there's a new live EP, we should mention, right? Recorded at Celtic Connections. That's out now?
Yeah, that is out now. Yeah, we did a Celtic Connections gig in January of this year. And the Glad Radio, Richard Bull there, he...
a lovely Sonic Bull.
Yeah, Sonic Bull. He, they got someone to record it, Chris Bramley, and he captured it so beautifully. And it was a packed out gig, and it was a great night. You know what it's like in January,
you've
Celtic
captured
Connections.
The atmosphere, haven't you?
Yeah, and it was just such a good one. And so we thought, why don't we just release 5 tracks from that night, and it's a good laugh. There's a bit of chat in between and stuff, and also some new songs that we hadn't played before. So.
But it's a gorgeous dynamic because it's so different from that really insular and DIY and solitary DIY way that you made the album, which is stunning.
Thank you.
But you're also on stage doing lots of other things.
Well, I was going to say that's what I love about you, because you've got so many strings to your bow, which means you're very creative and you're getting an opportunity to sort of do
I just
that.
love live. Yes, that's why we called it live. I love live art, and I love being on stage. I've always been on stage since I was about 10, and my mum, I've looked up to my mum as an actor as well, so it's like that connection. I'm addicted to the connection, and I'm sure you feel that in your gigs as well.
But I was going to say, you were speaking earlier about being gay and acting. Could you actually act? There was a play of my life story called Careful, and it's one of the most horrific and awesome things at the same time I ever did. It was solo. I was on stage for an hour. It was 28 nights in a row, and it was the scariest thing I've ever done. And after it was Maggie Kinloch that directed it. Maggie was like, well, we'll need to look for something else for you to do. And I was like, right. And she was talking about other actors, and I'm like, oh, I don't know how I'd integrate with other people. And she said, you've just done an actor's worst fear, of being on your own on a stage. And the other question I had, she went, well, we were looking at the Queen of Whale Quay as a potential other thing we could maybe do. And I said, yeah, that sounds great, because I can't see me kissing a man in a play. And, well, it's just acting. And I'm like, but I don't know if I can do acting.
Yeah. I love that that's the only reason you didn't go into acting.
Well, do you know, a good friend of mine is Sophie Ward. Okay. I'd say she's kind of quite a classical actor.
Yeah.
And when I was learning the lines for the play, I was in London. I was coming into London, and I was meeting her and people. And, you know, I had something like 2 months to learn 28 pages. And I'm hopeless with my own lyrics for my songs, never mind
that. To me sounds like a long time. I'm like,
really?
if only I could have 2, because usually about 2 weeks or more or whatever.
But she frightened me, because I sat on the bus where I was going to get to her, and I was like, right, okay, right. So I went in and we sat down, and she goes, how's it going, Hoss? And I was like, it's good, yeah. I've just learned the first paragraph, and honestly, the blood drained from her face, and the look in her face frightened me. And she went, oh, you have to learn this. Yeah. She goes, you read it, you put it down, you read it, you put it down. And I was like, oh
yeah. It's funny though, because like the scariest gigs for me are like the intimate, not hiding behind the character, singing from the heart gigs. And then, for example, the panel that's coming up, I'm like, can't wait to do it.
Yeah.
Playing Captain Hook.
Honestly.
Are you playing Captain Hook?
It's going to be
amazing.
brilliant. Elaine C.
And I'm
Smith
already
as well.
thinking Tash or no Tash. I think I'm going to go for Tash.
You've got to do it. You've got to do it.
If you're having a lesbian hook, then you're getting a Tash.
Yeah, I think
actually, Story's taken to wearing one of those.
I've actually seen that. Yeah, she looks really good. I know, she looks brilliant. She does a kind of Post Malone thing as well, which kind of draws on her face. Still looks superb. So you're in Panto with Elaine C. Smith. We saw you in Two Doors Down with her as well. But it's brilliant having, again, just these women whose voices have carried the telly and the theatre and our humour for decades.
Yeah, it's going to be an absolute honour. I cannot wait. I've performed at the King's once before with Pride and Prejudice, sort of, for a week, and it was like the biggest buzz of my life.
Yeah.
So getting to do it for 2 months solid is going to be something else. I'm already, taking my vitamins and warming up my wrist and all that.
Getting match fit.
Yeah, exactly. But it's going to be amazing. I mean, we've got Elaine and Darren and Johnny and all these legends that have done it for years. I can't wait. And to play Captain Hook as well. It's just like the icing.
Do you have to fly?
I don't know yet. Probably not. I probably won't get to
So
do
you
that.
need to tell the audience what we mean by flying.
When an actor gets lifted up on a wire, basically,
and you fly across
I thought they really flew.
Yeah.
I thought it was real flying.
Oh, sorry, Nick.
It was real flying. That's me. Burst my bubble. But that's it. The wonder of the stage and stagecraft. You mentioned Pride and Prejudice, sort of there as well, Hannah, and it strikes me.
She did slip that in there, and I thought that's quite big.
Yeah, huge. But even you touched on Oran Moore as well. So whether it's a play in A Pie and a Pint in the Medea or Pride and Prejudice, sort of, again, it comes back to something that is not in all of this exhibition, because some of it absolutely comes from a place of anger and frustration, and utterly rightly so. But a lot of it does come from a place of joy, and again, that can be rebellious, and something like Pride and Prejudice, sort of, quite. It's
but it
just
must
so
be like
jubilant.
adrenaline for when you're actually singing. Like, I get high as a kite, then I go on the stage and I come out like a bullet from a gun to the audience, and they're like, whoa.
Yeah, and it's all different types of adrenaline, isn't it? Like my wife is now sort of used to the different come downs of different like an Oran Moore is far scarier to me than doing the Kings or something like that, because Kings is a buzz, whereas Oran Moore, it is like you've got 2 weeks to learn a play
through the ringer,
and an Oran Moore audience are there and they're vocal and they're with you, and so that's a great feeling. But it's also like they expect to be entertained, so you've got to bring it, you know.
Is it one of the first things that Maggie taught me? Honestly, it rings in my head. Stillness. Because I'm used to standing on the stage, moving side to side, moving my arms and everything. She's like, stillness, stillness, stand still, horse, stillness. And at one point, she'd lay across my feet.
Really?
To stop me moving. And then you're talking about audience participation. Careful. I think people thought they'd walk in and I'd tell a couple of stories, sing a couple of songs. No. I had to learn to act in the best way I could. Did you see it?
No.
Oh, no. I'll send you a video.
I would love that.
Oh my God, it's I can't even watch it. It's harrowing. It's my life story when I get chased by gangs, my mum and dad dying. And I think the audience are not expecting this. They sit down, they're like, and I come on to the stage in this spotlight, talk about Ian McKellen, parts of my life story.
So were you playing horse, or were you
as a child, growing up, everything?
Yeah. So you were acting yourself, essentially.
I was becoming myself, and that was really strange.
That is very vulnerable. I would find that very hard.
There were 2 chairs on the stage, and one represented male, female, mum, dad. And I sat in front of that, and I worked my way around the tables, depending on who I was dealing with. There was a psychiatrist on the other side, and that was the other thing. Body memory. So if I'm at that part of the stage, this happens, this huge thing. Anyway, I was going to go back to audience participation. There was supposed to be no audience participation. One of the nights I'm walking on and I hear this noise, and I was like, what? I looked down. There's supposed to be nobody in the front row to distract me. There's 2 wifeys, 2 big bags, bottle of wine, pint glasses. And I start hearing, and I'm like, yes, I'm trying not to see them. I'm trying not to take it in.
Hard.
But it was shocking. It was, people just forget. Third wall, is it you call it?
The fourth wall. One of them. One of the walls.
So many walls.
One of the walls.
See, I haven't learned it yet properly.
The smell of the pies at Ormore is enough for me to feel nervous.
Yes, even if you smell them somewhere else.
Emotional memory.
Well, listen, speaking of theatre, we should probably wind up, because you've got to go back through for a photo call or a press call for that very panto, which is amazing. And we're maybe going to have a wee bit more of a wander around this incredible exhibition. You're going to come back and see more, Hannah, aren't you?
It's gorgeous, great. There's such a mixed media of stuff, and I'll need to come back.
Yeah, there's tapestry, there's all sorts. And you're off on tour, so we'll put all your dates, we'll put a link to all of them, but you're all across Scotland and the UK over the coming months, aren't you?
Yeah. And well, we're talking about being in a space where you get lots of stuff out of it. It's the 30th anniversary next year of me at the Bars with the SCO, so we're looking at doing that again.
I was looking, you're up in Nairn, aren't you? I've got a friend that lives in Nairn, or near Nairn.
Oh, yeah, tell him to come along.
I might try and...
Oh, let's have a party in Nairn.
Road trip to Nairn,
Let's do it.
It says workshop on one of the days. Is that a different place?
Yeah, no, it's the same place. First day I'm doing my show, and then the next day we had a chat, and Rona said, another McDonald, Rona said, would you do a workshop? And I went, I don't really do them, but I'm going to have a go. I'm going to sort of share some of my insight into voice and writing.
So it's still saying yes to things, right? And there's a big power in that. Protest can be yes, it doesn't have to be no all the time.
Yes, and that's what they always say in the drama schools.
Well, next one, I think, did you remember the launch? I'm and on my album as well, if you read it, I'm in the last couple of years into my different things that I'm changing about my life. And the first one was the Great Awakening of No.
That's it.
Yeah.
I'm in that phase, quickly followed by It's Not My Drama. And the most recent one is, oh well. And honestly, you can use any one of those 3 in any given situation. It really does work. And I stop myself short and go, the Great Awakening of No.
I've got a good mental thing that I do before I go on stage, and I start to feel the pressure, and you're like, oh my god, I do a wee breath, and I go, rising fear, keep the trust here.
Oh, I like that. And your hand on your heart.
That's how I talk myself down.
When I start doing my warm-ups, it winds me up. I'm like, it makes me worse. Seriously, I walk about the corridors. I got a row at Greenock.
Really?
I was walking up and down the corridor going, and this woman pushed over me. She went, is that you? And I was like, sorry. She went, there's something going on next door. Can you keep it down? And I was like,
that's you tell.
Don't you know who I am?
She'll be gutted when she'll let you up.
That's you tell. Right, okay, we'll leave you to your panto calls, your tour, and Horses. Absolute pleasure. And Horses' amazing album as well, The Road Less Travelled, is out now. Get it on red vinyl. It's beautiful. Every song is stunning. And Colour Theory's fab album and new live EP as well. We'll all go and see Hannah as Captain Hook, right? We're going to come and see you in the panto.
Oh, yes, we will.
Yes, we will indeed. Yeah, you're going to have to get used to
be
that.
slapping our thighs.
Super quickly. And this is please do. This is a whole other conversation. But
Yes.
while we're here singing the praises of the Women in Revolt exhibition, which runs until January, incidentally, and they've got a fab podcast, there is another exhibition currently running in Edinburgh, which has horse here at the heart of it. It's the modern portrait. Your wonderful portrait of Roxana Halls is in there. Or from.
I'm looking at you going, I didn't know, like, I know my portrait's over there.
Yep, it's a new exhibition of some of Scotland's greatest and best loved stars. Billy Connolly's in there.
You're in it.
And
That's
Redpath
news to
and
me.
Horse.
Yeah. My
Right.
dad was like, have you seen Horse's portrait?
So there you go. So that's another exhibition we must all go to. Oh, and the phone is ringing. It's time to go. Who is it?
Who could it be? My other half.
Well, listen, thank you both so much.
You're
It's been
very
great
welcome.
to
Thanks
chat
for
to you.
having me.
And a massive thanks also to the National Galleries of Scotland and Modern 2 for making us feel so welcome. And thank you, Jill, for sitting quietly and peacefully this whole time. The exhibition runs until January. Thank you again.
Real pleasure. Loved it. Thanks.
Cheers.